The Sonoran desert sun beat down on the dusty pickup truck. Inside, a retired American schoolteacher, let's call him Frank, nervously clutched a duffel bag. Frank wasn't on vacation. He was transporting a shipment of prescription drugs, painkillers, anxiety meds across the border back to eager buyers in the States. Frank had fallen prey to a slick operation, one that promised easy money shuttling meds from Mexico, where they were cheaper, to the US, where demand and profit margins were sky high. What Frank didn't know was that the operation was run by a cartel, that the pills were counterfeit, and that his easy money came with a heavy price. Frank's story, though fictionalized, is a microcosm of a much larger phenomenon. Every year, Americans, driven by a potent cocktail of motivations, cross the line into illegal ventures on Mexican soil. Frank's story is just one among many, a single thread in a vast and tangled web. The issue of Americans breaking bad in Mexico rarely makes headlines. When it does, it's often sensationalized, reduced to simplistic narratives of drug lords and desperate mules. But the reality is far more nuanced, far more insidious. It's about the retired teacher enticed by the allure of easy money, the thrill seeker willing to risk it all for a taste of danger, the unwitting tourist caught in a web spun by forces they don't understand. This is not just about drugs. It's about the illegal antiquities trade, where ancient artifacts are looted from sacred sites, their cultural significance erased for the sake of profit. It's about the exotic pet trade, where endangered animals are snatched from their natural habitats, destined for a life of captivity or worse. These activities, often hidden in plain sight, leave a trail of devastation in their wake, eroding cultural heritage, decimating wildlife populations, and fueling organized crime. The consequences are far-reaching, impacting not only the individuals directly involved, but also the communities they leave behind. For generations, Mexico has held a certain allure for Americans. The lure of sunshine, beaches, and a culture vastly different from the daily grind back home. But this allure has a darker side, a history intertwined with America's own social and economic realities. This isn't just about escaping the mundane, it's about seeking opportunities, often illicit, that seem out of reach on American soil. The very proximity of Mexico, a mere border crossing away, makes it a seemingly accessible playground for those seeking a quick buck or a thrill ride outside the reach of familiar laws. This ease of access, however, is a double-edged sword. To understand why Americans engage in illegal activities south of the border, one must delve into the historical relationship between the two countries. For centuries, this relationship has been marred by conflict, exploitation, and a power dynamic that continues to cast a long shadow. From the Mexican-American War to the exploitative practices of American corporations on Mexican soil, the narrative is fraught with injustice. This history of exploitation has created a climate of vulnerability in Mexico, particularly in regions where poverty and lack of opportunity are rampant. This vulnerability is then exploited by those seeking to profit from illegal activities, whether it's drug trafficking organizations exploiting desperate individuals as mules, or unscrupulous businessmen capitalizing on lax environmental regulations. The legacy of this uneven playing field is deeply ingrained in the cross-border dynamic. While the allure of easy money or a thrill is undeniable, for many Americans engaging in illegal activities in Mexico, the driving force is far more desperate poverty. Economic hardship, coupled with a lack of opportunity in the US, pushes some individuals to seek their fortune by any means necessary across the border. The promise of higher profits in the drug trade, for example, can be a powerful motivator for someone struggling to make ends meet. Similarly, the lure of finding and selling valuable artifacts, fueled by a romanticized view of treasure hunting, can seem like a viable option for those who feel failed by the system. This desperation, however, is often exploited by criminal networks who prey on the vulnerable. The Sonoran Desert stretches, a seemingly endless expanse of sand and scrub. But hidden amidst the cacti and creosote bushes, a different kind of crop thrives. Here, fueled by American demand, Mexican cartels have set up shop, cultivating not just drugs, but also the desperation that drives Americans to cross the line. It's a deadly trade, one where lives are treated as expendable, sacrifices on the altar of profit. The drug trade, with its promise of quick riches, has long held a dangerous allure for Americans, both as consumers and collaborators. The cartels, savvy and ruthless, understand this dynamic. They exploit the economic anxieties of down-on-their-luck Americans, promising wealth in exchange for transporting drugs across the border. These recruits, often unaware of the brutality of the cartel world, become pawns in a deadly game. The ancient ruins of Mexico whisper tales of bygone civilizations, their stones imbued with the echoes of forgotten rituals. But these sacred sites are under siege, not from the ravages of time, but from a more modern threat: looting. Driven by greed and a thirst for exotic treasures, some Americans are complicit in the plunder of Mexico's cultural heritage. These aren't just petty thieves pilfering souvenirs. Organized networks operate with ruthless efficiency, employing locals to locate and excavate artifacts, then smuggling them out of the country to be sold on the black market. Ancient pottery, intricate jewelry, even human remains are ripped from their context, stripped of their cultural significance, and sold to the highest bidder. Every artifact stolen represents a loss not just for Mexico but for the world. The jungles of southern Mexico teem with life, a vibrant tapestry of exotic creatures. But this biodiversity is under threat, not just from habitat loss, but from a more insidious enemy, the illegal pet trade. Fueled by a demand for exotic pets, some Americans are complicit in a cruel and unsustainable trade that's decimating wildlife populations. Parrots plucked from the rainforest canopy, monkeys snatched from their mothers, reptiles stuffed into suitcases. The methods are cruel, the journey harrowing. Many animals don't survive the trip, succumbing to stress, dehydration, or injury. The desire to own a piece of the wild, to possess something rare and beautiful, blinds some Americans to the suffering they inflict. The Sonoran desert wind whispers a siren song, a call to adventure for those seeking a break from the mundane. For some Americans, venturing into the illegal in Mexico isn't about money or desperation, but about the intoxicating rush of breaking the rules. It's a dangerous game, a dance with danger that promises excitement, a story to tell, a fleeting sense of power. The allure of the forbidden, of operating outside the confines of societal norms, can be intoxicating. The very act of crossing a border, of entering a world where familiar rules don't apply, can be a powerful draw for those seeking a thrill. The risks, instead of deterring them, become part of the attraction, heightening the sense of adventure. The human mind is a master of self-deception, adept at rationalizing even the most questionable actions. For some Americans engaging in illegal activities in Mexico, this takes the form of elaborate justifications, a way to reconcile their actions with their own moral compass. Denial becomes a shield, protecting them from the uncomfortable truth of their choices. They convince themselves that their actions are victimless, that the laws they're breaking are somehow different, less important in this foreign context. They minimize the consequences, focusing on their own immediate needs and desires, ignoring the ripple effect of their actions on individuals, communities, and the environment. This self-deception is often fueled by a sense of entitlement, a belief that the rules don't apply to them because of their nationality or social standing. The Rio Grande, a ribbon of water dividing two nations, also marks a stark cultural divide. For some Americans crossing this border, the cultural differences, instead of fostering understanding, become an excuse for disrespect, a justification for their illegal actions. Ignorance, coupled with a sense of privilege, creates blind spots, obscuring the ethical implications of their behavior. They view Mexico through a lens of stereotypes, failing to recognize the richness and complexity of the culture. They see only what they choose to see, a caricature of a nation rather than a place with its own laws, customs, and values. This lack of cultural sensitivity breeds indifference, making it easier to justify exploiting the people and resources of another country. The Sea of Cortez shimmers under the Mexican sun, its turquoise depths teeming with life. But below the surface, a silent tragedy unfolds. Reefs, once vibrant ecosystems, lie bleached and broken, victims of destructive fishing practices fueled by the demand for exotic seafood in American restaurants and homes. The pursuit of profit, blind to the delicate balance of nature, leaves behind a trail of ecological devastation. The illegal wildlife trade, driven in part by American consumers seeking exotic pets or luxury goods, takes a devastating toll on Mexico's biodiversity. Rainforests, stripped of their parrots and monkeys, fall silent. Deserts, plundered for rare cacti and reptiles, lose their ability to sustain life. The delicate web of nature, woven over millennia, unravels thread by thread. In the shadow of ancient pyramids, a sense of unease hangs heavy in the air. The once thriving community, dependent on tourism drawn to the wonders of the past, now struggles to survive. The looting of archaeological sites, fueled by the demand for pre-Columbian artifacts in American homes and museums, has robbed the community of its heritage and its economic lifeline. The illegal drug trade, with its tentacles reaching deep into Mexican society, leaves behind not just addiction and violence, but also a profound erosion of trust. Communities, torn apart by cartel recruitment and turf wars, struggle to rebuild their social fabric. Young people, faced with limited opportunities and the allure of easy money, are lured into a dangerous world, their potential sacrificed on the altar of profit. Amid stories of exploitation and loss, a spirit of resistance flickers. In villages and cities across Mexico, ordinary citizens stand against illegal activities. They are joined by activists, artists, and journalists, demanding accountability and change. Indigenous communities protect sacred sites and reclaim stolen artifacts. They educate tourists about their heritage, urging responsible travel. Mothers lead peace marches, demanding an end to drugs and violence. Their courage offers hope, a testament to the indomitable spirit of a people. The Sonoran Desert sun sets on the horizon, casting long shadows across the border, a physical reminder of the line that divides two nations. The consequences of illegal activities, of lines crossed and boundaries blurred, impact lives and landscapes on both sides. These are shared challenges, demanding a shared sense of responsibility. Economic hardship transcends borders, finding fertile ground in the human psyche, regardless of nationality. We must acknowledge the complex interplay of factors contributing to this phenomenon. The stories we've shared are rooted in a stark reality. It's a sobering thought, demanding a long, hard look in the mirror. Addressing the complex issue of Americans engaging in illegal activities in Mexico requires a multifaceted approach, one that moves beyond punitive measures towards collaborative solutions that address the root causes of these transgressions. It requires a shift in perspective, a recognition that lasting change can only come from working together, bridging the divide between nations, communities, and individuals. Strengthening law enforcement efforts, both in the United States and Mexico, is crucial to disrupting criminal networks and holding perpetrators accountable for their actions. However, this alone is not enough. We must also invest in economic opportunities in marginalized communities, both north and south of the border, providing viable alternatives to the allure of the illicit economy. Education and awareness campaigns, targeting both American citizens and tourists, are essential to fostering a deeper understanding of the cultural, social, and environmental consequences of engaging in illegal activities abroad. By highlighting the human cost of these actions, we can begin to shift attitudes and behaviors, promoting responsible tourism and ethical engagement. Imagine a world where every tourist, every consumer, pauses to consider the origins of the goods they purchase, the impact of their actions on the environment and the communities they visit. This is the power of awareness, of shining a light on the often hidden consequences of our choices, empowering individuals to become agents of positive change. By educating ourselves about the realities of the illegal wildlife trade, the devastating impact of drug trafficking, and the cultural erosion caused by looting, we can begin to make more informed decisions. We can choose to support businesses with ethical sourcing practices, to travel with respect for local cultures and laws, to become advocates for sustainable and responsible tourism. The internet and social media, often used to facilitate illegal activities, can also be powerful tools for education and awareness raising. By sharing stories, information, and resources, we can amplify the voices of those working on the front lines of these issues, fostering a global community committed to ethical engagement and responsible travel. The stories we've shared are calls to action. They challenge us to move beyond indifference, to acknowledge our complicity in a system prioritizing profit over people and the planet. We can choose to engage, educate ourselves, and demand better from our leaders and ourselves. The path forward requires a collective awakening. It's time to bridge the divide and replace apathy with action. Let us choose wisely, for the future hangs in the balance.